وأصحاب الشمال ما أصحاب الشمال في سموم وحميم وظل من يحموم لا بارد ولا كريم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected brothers, ayat number 41 and onwards of Surah Waqia. And we already know the importance of Surah Waqia. Here in these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now talking about the doom and the destruction faced by the rejectors and the disbelievers. Prior to this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the rewards and the compensation given to the believers and what they will enjoy in Jannah. And now the opposite. What will happen to those who disobey? Because it's either one or the other. If it's good, you will be rewarded, and if it's bad, then there will be consequences. It's not like another ideology, religion, in which everybody is forgiven. Regardless of what they do, they're forgiven. Their sins are forgiven. Christianity, they believe that their sins have been forgiven because Jesus, He died for their sins. So therefore now the Christians, whatever they do, it's okay. Yeah, because it's been accounted for. But Islam says no. When there's something that you do, there's going to be a reaction to it. Every action has a reaction. If there's a good action, we'll have a good reaction. If there's a bad action, we'll also have a bad reaction. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about those on the other side, those who are doomed and destroyed, who are going to be destroyed. And these are the people on the left, Ashabu Shimal. Okay, Ashabu Shimal, Shimal in Arabic means left. Ashabu Yamin, the ones on the right, we know what happened to them. Allah rewarded them. Ashabu Shimal, the ones on the left. Who are these who are the ones on the left? Do you know who they are? Ma ashabu shimal, how will they be, the people on the left? So now listen, Allah is going to tell us. Fi samumin wa hamim, they will be in fierce hot winds and hamim, boiling water. Okay, now what is samum? As-samum in Arabic. Okay, الريح الحارة التي تؤثر تأثير السم. That's how the Mufassirin have explained it. It's a hot wind which has a poisonous effect. Now, in this world, there was an instance, or two instances, where the world saw something very similar to this. And this was, when the atomic bombs were detonated on top of Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Now, when the bomb was dropped by the United States and it hit the cities, the first effect was obviously the explosion, which was very powerful. But the 300,000 people that perished as a result of this explosion, a tiny fraction of this 300,000 died. The rest, the brunt of the people who died as a result of this explosion was because of the nuclear fallout, it's called. The nuclear fallout, which happened throughout that day and for many, many days afterwards. What was it? It was the atmosphere had been poisoned and polluted with nuclear radiation, right? Nuclear radiation, even though it's invisible, but the effects are disastrous. So for many, many days, if not months, even years, people suffered as a result of this invisible phenomena known as nuclear radiation, right? So the 300,000 people who died, the majority did not die because of the explosion, they died because of the after effects, the nuclear radiation, called the nuclear fallout, right? Very dangerous. Many, many years afterwards, children would be born deformed, and that area that land where this explosion happened, even till this date, it's a very poisonous plot of land. The soil, the earth has been contaminated, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to a fierce hot wind, obviously in simple terms. The Quran uses simple terminology which makes sense to the Arabs, but for us we can understand it even better. Yeah, now that things have happened, we've seen things, so we can actually put it into context. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, something very similar in Jahannam, in hellfire, for the people on the left. Yeah, fi samum, this is what it is. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. And hamim, boiling water. So there will be water, but a very different kind of water. And Allah will mention in a couple of verses what effect this water will have on these people, and how these people will treat and regard this boiling water. So let's find out. Allah after that, He says, وَظِلٍّ مِّن يَحْمُومٍ. These people, they will be in the shadow of black smoke. Yahmum, black smoke. So in the fire of Jahannam, when the fire is burning and scorching, as a result of the fire, there will be shade. It's not as if they will be exposed to the elements. There will be some sort of a shade, but what will that shade be? Black smoke, right? What kind of a shade is that? When recently in the Iranian and US war, when they bombed those, if you follow the news, when they bombed those refineries, oil refineries, yeah. So for a whole day and night, the air atmosphere around that locality was completely blackened as a result of the fires that were raging, the black smoke that was billowing and had covered the sky, had covered the surrounding areas. Jazakallah, thank you. Jazakallah. So as a result of which, day turned into night. Were you following the news? Did you see? Yeah. So you see things like that, and then you realize, and you can implement it in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions things like this in the hereafter, in Jahannam. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. Very terrible and very horrible. It's unimaginable for us. La baridin wa la kareem. So this shade that they'll be in, it's not going to be like any other shade. People in hot climates, they know the value of shade. They find a tree and they sit under the shade, get away from the sun. The sun is so hot, blazing. But the people of Jahannam, even though they will have the shade of the smoke, but they're not going to derive any benefit from it. La barid, neither cool, wala kareem, neither pleasant. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَبْلَ ذَلِكَ مُتْرَفِينَ. They deserve this. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that before this, sorry, let me just put that up. Before this, لا كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين. These people, they were indulging themselves in luxury. They had all forms of amenities and luxuries. And as a result of these luxuries, they became so involved and so engrossed that they forgot about Allah. They rejected Allah. They relied upon the worldly materialistic things that they had. They relied upon their money. They relied upon their assets. Okay. وما أرسلنا من قبلك في قرية من نذير إلا قال مترفوها إنا بما أرسلتم به كافرون وقالوا نحن أكثر أموالا وأولادا وما نحن بمعذبين. In Surah Al-Saba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Allah relates what these people, mutrafin, these people who are very rich. The word for them in the Quran is mutraf. Okay, what's the meaning of mutraf or mutrif? The meaning of the mufassirin, they say al-mun'amin. Okay, al-munhamik fi shahawat. Those who have so much wealth that their life is just about fulfilling desires. Yeah, about enjoying themselves, going from one holiday resort to another holiday resort, from one 7-star hotel restaurant to another. That's all their life. That's all they do. Okay, just enjoy themselves, throwing parties. So that's what these elite do, isn't it? Those who are really like millionaires and billionaires, it's all about enjoying themselves. They don't work. Yeah, they have people working for them, and it's all about eating and drinking and being drunk and intoxicated and high on drugs. It's all about having a good time. So al-muna'amin al-munhamikin fi shahawat. Okay, So that's the example of the shahawat. They mutrafin, they will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. Okay, that nothing's gonna, we are not gonna be affected. We are untouchable. Our wealth and our sustenance and our provisions and our power will come to our assistance, which isn't the case. Okay, inna bima ursiltum bihi kafirun. We don't have any need for this religion. Karl Marx, this famous communist, his quote is very famous, in which he says that religion is like an opiate. It's like a drug for those who are poor, because the poor, because they don't have anything else, because they are losing in this world, what they do is, in order to lessen the effects of their misery, they turn to religion. So his quotation is very famous, that religion is the opiate of the poor, of the bourgeois, because the word the communists, what they use for the common people is the proletariat, the common man, So what some people said in response to that, okay, in response to this quote, that religion is some sort of like a drug to calm the poor. So what they said in response to that, they said wealth is the opiate of the bourgeois. Okay, so if religion is going to be the opiate of the poor people, then wealth is the drugs, and it's the intoxication because they rely on it. If there's wealth, then they're happy, and if there's no wealth, their life comes to an end, they commit suicide. What's the point of living if you don't have anything, right? That's why a lot of these millionaires, billionaires, very rich people, when they suffer a sudden catastrophic loss, financial loss, they commit suicide, right? Because they can't imagine life without money, without wealth, right? So this is the nature of the mutrafin. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to in the Quran, these people who are really, really indulgent. This. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that these people who are going to be fi samumin wa hamim, in hot winds and in boiling water and in black smoke, إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين. This is the distinction, mutrafin, being indulgent, of these people. This is how they used to live their lives, because of which they disregarded religion, because of which they put religion to aside. It makes you arrogant, yeah? Having wealth and having a lot of power, then you disregard religion, you disregard the hereafter, you disregard things which are not visible, because you can't see the Jannah, you can't see Jahannam, you can't see things like that, so you disregard them. Very materialistic. And another thing which they used to do, كانوا يصرون على الحنث العظيم وكانوا يصرون على الحنث العظيم. Throughout their lives, they had this, you can say, this slogan, okay, which constantly, this is what they used to say, يصرون, they used to persist على الحنث العظيم, this very great sin, right? But what is Allah referring to? What was this great sin of theirs? It was a slogan in which they say, وَكَانُوا يَقُولُونَ أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَإِنَّا. This is the slogan. This is because of which Allah punished them. One of the reasons why Allah punished them, because are we going to come back to life after death? Is there any such thing as life after death? So because of statements like this, ridiculing life after death, not believing in life after death, not believing in the hereafter, this is what they constantly said and mentioned, and this was their ideology, as a result of which they ended up in hellfire. Okay, أَإِذَا مِتْنَا. So let's look at the translation. Let's look for the word for word translation. وَكَانُوا, and they used to say, يَقُولُون, they used to say, أَإِذَا مِتْنَا, when we die. أَإِذَا, when. مِتْنَا, we die. مُتْنَا, mitna, it's the same thing here for maut. وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا, and when we become turab. Kunna turab in Arabic means dust. When we turn into dust. وَعِظَام, when we turn into just bones and skeletons. Are we really going to لَمَبْعُوثُونَ, okay, be resurrected? لَمَبْعُوثُونَ, indeed. Yeah, there's like a lam in there which is used for emphasis. Are we really going to be brought back to life? مَبْعُوث, okay, from ba'ath. It means brought back to life. So remember the story that we heard of this As ibn Wa'il, this person who came to Rasulullah ﷺ with a skeleton, like a skull in his hand, and he threw it in front of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and it shattered. And he says to the Prophet ﷺ that you think this is going to come back to life now that it's shattered into dozens of pieces. How can that be possible? So this was in Surah Yasin, you remember? And then how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses, مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَقُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Yeah? Allah says that the one who created this bone, this skull or this human, the one who created him from scratch, do you think it's going to be impossible for him to create him again? He's already created him once. You think it's difficult for him to recreate him? How silly and how stupid is this? Yeah, how is Allah going to bring this back to life? So the same thing here as well. Allah is mentioning that this is what they used to say. Our aba'un al-awwalun. Our aba is the plural of ab. Ab in Arabic means father. Okay, so our fathers, even them as well, our ancestors, awwalun, the ones who were like before us, the first and foremost of our ancestors. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being instructed by Allah that tell these people, respond to them. Okay, when they say things like this, tell them, قُل, tell them, إِنَّ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَالْآخِرِينَ, that the first and the last, the first people and the last, the later on people, from basically from the beginning of time all the way till the end of time, awwal, akhir, yeah, لَمَجْمُوعُونَ, they will surely be gathered, yeah, majma', they will be gathered together, لَمَجْمُوعُونَ, plural, إِلَى مِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ, at an appointed time, on a known day. And what's that appointed time? Appointed time is the day of judgment. Okay, يوم القيامة, يوم معلوم. It's a well-known day. We don't know the date, but we know that it's going to occur. Okay, it's a famous day, well-known day. So it doesn't mean that Allah is saying that people know when the time will be. No, that we know that this day is going to take place. Okay, then ثم إنكم أيها الضالون المكذبون لآكلون من شجر من زقوم. Then on that day, you, O the ones who are at fault, ضالون, the ones who are making a mistake, okay, and the ones who are deniers, مكذبون, كذب يكذب is to deny. So you who are making a mistake and you are deniers, لآكلون, what's going to happen to you is you are going to eat min shajar, from the tree of Zaqqum. Okay, the tree of Zaqqum. Now, what is the tree of Zaqqum? It comes in the Quran here and there. Inna shajarat al-Zaqqum ta'amul athim. Yeah, it's the food for the sinners. Kal muhli yaghli fil butun ka ghali al-hamim. Right, it's gonna boil in their stomachs. Yeah, just like boiling water. Okay, and then another place. طلعها كأنه رؤوس الشياطين. The buds or the flowers of Zaqqum, it's as if they resemble the devils. They're devilish, very horrible to look at. So have you actually seen this Zaqqum? It's actually a tree which exists in this world. So Allah is likening this particular tree, which is going to be in Jahannam. So Jahannam's got trees here. So this particular tree in Jahannam, Allah has likened it to a similar tree in this world. And this is how it looks like. Okay? Zaqqum. Right? So I will always show you, if I can, pictures of what Allah mentions in the Quran. And in this particular surah, Allah is mentioning a lot of trees and a lot of plants. Okay? So some of you are into trees and into plants. So it's good to know what Allah is talking about. So here we see Zaqqum. In English, it's called the milk hedge tree. Because when you slice it, it's a cactus. Yeah, and you see, it's a cactus. It's a form of a cactus known as the milk hedge tree. Called a tree for some reason. So when you slice it, out of it pours sap. You know what sap is? The sap is like a liquid which is inside trees, in the bark of trees, and also in plants as well, and in cactuses. Certain cactuses, they have water. When you slice it, some liquid is very similar to water. But this one, when you slice it, out of it comes white liquid, looks like milk. Okay? But it's very bitter. Right? And not just that, but as you can see, it's a cactus. It's got a lot of thorns and spiny, prickly kind of things, needle-like things on it as well. Even the fruit, the red, what you can see, that's the buds of the flower or the fruit, you can say. It doesn't look very nice, yeah? It's got these spikes on it, and no wonder Allah refers to it in the Quran as the head of a shaitan. Yeah, it's like a horrible to look at, because the Arabs, when something was very horrible and terrifying, they would say رأس الشيطان, okay, كأنه رؤوس الشياطين. He looks like a ghost, he looks like a monster, how we would say nowadays. Yeah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the flowers or the fruits of zaqqum, even in this world, are horrible to look at. Look at it, it looks like, I don't know, what will you call that? Like, it looks like flesh, or rotten flesh, or whatever you want to call it. So Allah is saying that the people of Jahannam, لَآكِلُونَ مِنْ شَجَرٍ مِنْ زَقُّومٍ, they will be made to eat the cactus of zaqqum. Yeah. فَمَالِئُونَ مِنْهَا الْبُطُونَ, and they will be so desperate that they will fill their bellies. Mali, mala'a, it means to fill. Okay, minha, from the tree, from the zaqqum. Al-butun, butun is belly, the plural of bottom. Okay, bellies. They will fill their bellies, and not just that. فَشَارِبُونَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْحَمِيمِ, and on top of that, when it gets stuck in their throat, when the thorny, prickly fruits get stuck in their throat and they'll want to drink water, they'll be given boiling water. فَشَارِبُونَ عَلَيْهِ, on top of that, they will drink hamim, boiling water. And it comes in a hadith that when water is offered to them in a goblet or in a cup or mug or wherever, it will be so hot, the radiation, the heat will be so hot that even before they take a sip, it will scorch the skin of their face and it will just drop off. Okay, yashwil wujuh, like it comes in another place in the Quran. It will roast their face. It will roast it. Literally, the skin will just become so boiled and tender that it will just drop off. It's very horrible. So, فَشَارِبُونَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْحَمِيمِ, they will drink this boiling water. And the next ayah, Allah describes how they will drink that water. It's terrifying. فَشَارِبُونَ شُرْبَ الْهِيمِ, they will drink this water like a thirsty camel. Do animals, when they're affected with heat stress, okay, not just camels, but any animal, when it goes through heat stress, and especially in hot climates, then they drink and drink and drink to such an extent that they suffer something called water toxification. So they drink, and that water leads them to their death. They drink and drink and drink, and it leads them to a condition which is quite dangerous and lethal, water toxification, and they die. So these people, they will be so hungry and thirsty that they will have nothing else, and in their desperation, they will drink like a thirsty camel, boiling water. So you probably think that, how can that be possible? Because that's, it's going to completely damage them inside. It's going to destroy them. And it comes in the hadith, like I mentioned, that their skin will fall off. So how will they continue doing so if they're going to be in such a horrible condition? It's unimaginable. So the answer to that is in the Quran. Okay, كُلَّمَا نَضِجَتْ جُلُودُهُمْ بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودًا غَيْرَهَا لِيَذُوقُوا الْعَذَابِ. So each time their skin burns and disintegrates, immediately Allah will renew it, replace it with another new one. Okay, unlike in this world where a person loses a limb and then that's it, it's gone. A person suffers burns, that's it, it's gone. He's going to be scarred for life, there's no going back. But in Jahannam, in order that they may continuously suffer, Allah will keep renewing their organs and their bodies and their skin. Okay, we'll go back to new. لِيَذُوقُوا الْعَذَابِ, so that they can taste, continue tasting this terrible Jahannam. So, this particular part of Surah Waqia is very different from the last part of Surah Waqia, which we did last week, which was about Jannah. Okay, it's a stark contrast between the two, but it needs to be mentioned. Allah has mentioned these things. It's so that we and humanity are aware. And then after that, هَذَا نُزُلُهُمْ. Now look at this. This will be their nuzul, entertainment. You know what nuzul is? Obviously in front of you is a very simplistic translation of this word. But nuzul is the first hospitality. You know when somebody comes to your house, guest comes to your house and you've been expecting that guest and you've been making preparations. So as soon as they enter into your house, you offer them something light, yeah, a refreshment. Usually in our culture, it's chai, yeah. You invite somebody for a meal, but you don't jump into the meal straight away, do you? First, when they come to your house, you offer them a cup of tea, and then after that, then you take them to the dinner table, and then you extend your hospitality to them. But there's always something in the beginning, something light, right? In some places you go and they will offer you, in some cultures they will offer you, fruit like, what do you call it, kajur, okay? Like especially in Arabia, if you're invited to somebody's house as a guest, before the main meal, they will offer qahwa, and along with it, some kajur, some dates, right? So this first hospitality which is extended to them, in Arabic this is called nuzul, because nuzul is arrival, okay? When somebody arrives somewhere at a destination, it's called nazala, okay? So the first hospitality on arrival, it's called nuzul in Arabic, and is usually very light. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, هَذَا نُزُلُهُمْ يَوْمَ الدِّينِ. What you just told you about zaqum and about water, this will be their first hospitality when they get into Jahannam. Okay? And what lies ahead is unimaginable. Allah hasn't talked about what's gonna come. Okay? The main course, Allah didn't talk about it. What we heard is just the beginning. Okay? Subhanallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. On the day of deen, the day of recompense. Yeah? نَحْنُ خَلَقْنَاكُمْ فَلَوْلَا تُصَدِّقُونَ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we created you. Remember he says, how are we going to come back to life again? Yeah? Our ancient ancestors, are they going to be brought back to life as well? نَحْنُ خَلَقْنَاكُمْ. Allah is reminding them that, look, we made you in the first instance. فَلَوْلَا تُصَدِّقُونَ. Then why don't you believe? Right? So now, my brothers, now that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has talked about Ashabul Shimal, the people on the left, and how they will end up in the hellfire and what kind of punishments they will receive. Now, because of Allah has talked about both, the good and the bad, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to, in the next ayats, Allah is outlining and mentioning all of His amazing bounties and blessings upon us, so that they serve as eye-openers. That look, these are the things I've given you, 1, 2, 3, and all you need to do is just think for a moment about how amazing these 3 things are, how amazing they are. If you, with an open heart and sincerely think about them and appreciate them, then you will acknowledge me. Okay? So Allah is drawing people's attentions away, because people are like self-centered and just thinking about themselves and not looking around. So Allah is trying to broaden their minds. Say, look, I'm going to mention one thing, and then another thing, and then another thing which is around you. After you contemplate upon these things, are you still going to deny me? If you do, then there's nothing that we can do about you. Nothing anybody can do about you. You're gone. Yeah? There's no hope in you. So, what are the 3 things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the following ayat? So, number 1, sorry, here we go. Okay, what's this doing here? Right, okay. I just put this here just for your information, if you want to say, or just to see, just to test you. Does anybody know what this tree is? Okay. He says horse chestnut tree. Okay, so that's good. We're getting close. Conker tree, right? Now this is actually the London plane. It's called the London plane. Okay, and this is the most common tree in the United Kingdom. It's everywhere. On the roads, on the pavements. This is the tree that you will see planted. Okay, it's called the London plane. The reason why it's called the London plane is because they're everywhere in London. It's famous for being in London, but not just in London, but everywhere. And one thing about this tree, and the reason why it's so common on the streets, is because the bark of the tree, when it gets polluted, when it gets covered in smoke and fumes, and it gets blackened, it automatically by itself it sheds its bark, and new bark is grown. As you can see, if you look at the picture, you can see some yellow parts and some brown parts. So the brown part is the old bark, the polluted bark of the tree, and the yellow is the new and the fresh one. Okay, it keeps refreshing its skin or its bark. So this is another beautiful thing about the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And what this tree does, another thing about this tree is that it soaks and sucks in pollution. Okay, so it helps in reducing pollution. That's the reason why it has been planted here everywhere. Okay, now because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about trees, Allah talks about plants, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about vegetation. I thought maybe I'll mention this here just to kind of like create some sort of an interest. Many people, they unaware. This tree is everywhere, but they don't know. Yeah, they hardly notice it. In psychology, there's something called attention or blindness. Okay, or inattention blindness, where something is so obvious that you don't see it. Okay, it's all around you. It's ubiquitous. It's so common that your mind just blanks it out. Okay, so this is something that we need to, as Muslims, we need to be aware of. Yeah, our blessings are all around us. Sometimes you don't even see them. We are surrounded by blessings. There's so much blessings that we become blind to them. And when a little mishap happens, it sticks out. Oh no, it's the end of the world now because it's a tiny mishap in my life. I don't have anything good in my life. It's all destruction and ruin, and it's just me who's like this. And why does it have to be me? This kind of defeatist, hopeless kind of ideology. Where does it come from? This thinking. It comes from being blinded to all the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, around you. So we can. But mashallah, most of you here, you were able to identify a similar tree, which is similar to, the horse chestnut tree that you mentioned is quite similar to it, which is also everywhere around us. So remember what I mentioned last time about plants. There's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions plants in the Quran with so much detail. Okay, and inshallah in the following verses you will come across some more as well, some more plants and trees, because nature is amazing, and there's so much benefit in nature, and we only need nature. We don't need anything else, any artificial, genetically modified things. We do not need it at all. Nature has everything. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not created any disease except that He has also created for it a cure. Okay, it's up to us to find that cure, and the cure is all around us. It's in nature. Okay, so now in the following ayat, in the following couple of ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about certain things which are apparently in front of us. They exist, right? And sometimes we are fooled into thinking that these things, they exist on their own, right? These things are all around us and they exist on their own, or there is no external player to these events that are happening. They're happening apparently on their own, out of their own accord. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to outline here that no, they don't happen on their own. There is somebody behind these things that happen. Like for instance, cause and effect. Yeah, we see fire and smoke. Now smoke has a cause. Something causes smoke. And what's the cause? It's the fire. The effect that we see, smoke, is as a result of the fire, right? Fire burns, something which has been scorched and burnt. Now that's an effect, and the cause behind it is fire, right? The cause behind it, Like for example, take the instance of water. Okay, water, as much as it has benefits, also there are some harms to water, especially water in excess. What does it do? It kills and it drowns, right? So water is the cause, and the effect of water in this in particular instance is drowning, right? So all around us we see a cause and effect, right? Now, our eyes, they are blinded because we are limited, isn't it? We can only see something apparent, something that's happening right here in front of us. Somebody switched the light on, somebody's pressed the button, the light comes on. Cause and effect, right? We don't see what's beyond the panel, the switch panel. We don't see what's in the cladding. We don't see the wirings. Yeah, we are affected, and we believe what we see. Okay, that's the intrinsic effect of cause and effect. Yeah, so also this has an effect. However, beyond this system of cause and effect, there is another cause which we do not see, and that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the ultimate causer, and this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is outlining and explaining in the following verses, ayat. Okay, so Allah, He is the primary cause, right? When we see fire that's burning, it doesn't burn because of its own self. It doesn't burn out of its own accord. It burns because there is another cause, the ultimate cause, and what's that? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the primary cause. He is the intrinsic cause for fire to burn, right? And when we see fire burning, the fire is not the primary cause of burning, or water, the sea or the ocean or the wave that comes, it's not the primary cause of causing flood and devastation and destruction. It's the secondary, extrinsic. The primary cause is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So that's why we have to believe, this is our iman, and this is our creed and aqidah and belief, that things, they are dependent on Allah for them to happen, for them to exist. Okay, without Allah's command, fire does not burn, right? And we have heard and read about and recited instances in the Quran, for instance, where fire didn't burn because Allah didn't want it to burn, because Allah is the primary causer, right? When Ibrahim alayhi salam was chucked into the fire didn't touch him, fire didn't burn him. Why? Because the ultimate causer, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, decided for the fire not to destroy Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. The flood, okay, or the water of Musa alayhi salam when they were going through, what does water do? What does the sea do? You know, huge, immense amounts of water, it is destructive, it drowns, yeah? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed His command, because He was the ultimate causer, and the water did not destroy Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and the Bani Israel, but it did destroy Fir'aun, okay, because that's when the command of Allah came back. So Allah is the primary cause. You know, there are two ideologies within, two schools of thought within creed, okay? So one school of thought, they say that in order for an effect to take place, there needs to be a cause, secondary cause, which needs the primary cause, Allah, okay? So you need Allah first and foremost, who creates a cause which leads to an effect, okay? Like, let me give you another example. Satiety, yeah, being full, satisfied. You know when you eat and you're full, right? And you derive energy from where you eat, okay? So this school of thought in Islamic theology, Islamic ideology, creed, they believe that in order to be full, in order to be satiated, you need to have food, you need to have cause, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the effect of satiation and being full inside the food, which is the cause. So there's nothing wrong with that. However, there's another ideology as well, another school of thought within Islamic creed, okay? Like you get the Ash'ariyah, the Ash'aris, and the Maturidiyah, okay? They're two schools of thoughts. So the second school of thought, they believe that you really don't need a cause. You only need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an effect, okay? If Allah wants, He doesn't need to give you food. He doesn't require for food to make you full, okay? in order to be full, in order to be satiated, in order to be energized, Allah can do it without the need of food. Okay? Allah is immensely powerful and He doesn't need causes, right? So there's a slight differentiation or difference, if you want to say, in understanding this. However, it all boils down to this, that the cause and effect that we see in front of us, there's something beyond that, which is invisible to the naked eye, and that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the ultimate cause. And this is what Allah Azza wa Jal is going to talk about in the following ayat. أَفَرَأَيْتُم مَا تُمْنُونَ. So the first thing, that remember three things. Number one, Allah talks about the creation of humankind. Okay, creation, the reproductive process of humans, how they are born. Okay, so number one, humans, how they are born. أَفَرَأَيْتُم مَا تُمْنُونَ. Then after that, because that's really necessary, isn't it, for existence of life, you need reproduction. And then after that, the second most important and fundamental necessary factor for existence is food and sustenance. So then Allah talks about food, and He talks about أَفَرَأَيْتُم مَا تَحْرُثُونَ, what you plant. Okay. Then another thing which is also fundamental to existence on earth is fire. Okay. So Allah talks about fire. You know, fire. Without fire, we wouldn't have airplanes, air travel. Without fire, we wouldn't have the internal combustion chamber, the engine. Okay, what does it utilize to generate power? It utilizes combustion, isn't it? And what do you need for combustion? It's fire. At the end of the day, it's the manipulation of fire. So our whole existence depends on these three elements. Yeah, one is, of course, our existence, our reproduction, being born, and then number two is food and sustenance, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the following ayat. And then number three is fire. Allah talks about these three things and the cause and effect that we see, and how He Himself is behind this cause and effect. Yeah, when we are born, the fetus in the womb, all we do is we play this role of copulation. Yeah, cohabitation. The male and the female, they get together, and then after that, until birth, what happens behind the scenes, who is in control of that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so this is what Allah is explaining here, and this is what Allah is drawing our minds to. Similarly, with food, all the farmer does is he drops the seed into the ground. Yeah, drops the seed into the ground, covers it with soil, and until it grows, it's Allah's job. Yeah, He takes care of that. And the same with fire as well. Inshallah, we will continue with this discussion in our next session. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to come to terms with the Quran, to understand it, to ponder upon it, to reflect upon it, to create within us the awe and the magnificence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts, and at the same time to implement His commands and teachings into our lives, and at the same time to propagate it to others. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallahumma bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.